Hi everyone, it's Isabella here and welcome back to the channel. So here's the dealio, y'all. So I'm unwinding from my day. I'm doing my skincare routine. I'm getting everything done, right? Like I put on my eye cream, put on the retinol, all the goods, and I'm feeling good right now, okay? I'm ready for bed. However, I came across a TikTok that inspired me and got me very, very shocked because DoorDash, a company that we know, love, and use all the time, is under some major accusations for scamming you. Yes, you guys are clicking because of the absolute outlandish title. And yes, we are going to be talking about an absolutely insane lawsuit that is $1 billion. What the fuck? I don't even think I've heard of $1 billion lawsuit. I'm going to be honest with you here. Seeing that DoorDash is apparently and allegedly scamming everyone, I started thinking, wait a minute, does DoorDash do this all the time? Do they have more lawsuits? Because, you know, if a company has a $1 billion lawsuit, I'm assuming that they have some problems, right? And since a lot of us use DoorDash, I wanted to kind of fall down the rabbit hole and see. Lo and behold, DoorDash has a lot of stuff going on. Now, again, I'm not here to be like, oh my God, boycott DoorDash or whatever. Like many people use it. It's a source of income for people. And it's also a source for convenience. I mean, for example, I was able to send Krispy Kreme donuts to my pregnant best friend. I'm able to order food when I am insanely busy with work and I really badly need to eat something because I forgot to. You know what I mean? Honestly, been a really convenient thing. However, I think it's important to talk about because again, more consumer awareness we have, the better. So let's actually get into it. Now, before we hop into it though, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below. I know you see it, click on it, okay? We cover a lot of good stuff here on the channel. Don't forget to check out my vlog channel, merch, and podcast, which if you guys want to hang out with me more, they're all there. And now without further ado, let's get into the dark reality of DoorDash. All right, y'all, let's get into it. There are a plethora of issues. So I'm actually going to start from the beginning. So DoorDash has been around for a good while, and it has been, again, a really great source for so many people, as I've said previously. Now, like I said earlier, DoorDash has been used as a really great resource for so many different people. If anything, the delivery jobs really started peaking in 2020 because a lot of people wanted delivery to their door. And also people thought it was a lot easier, especially if they were stuck. And of course, with the peak of it, that have been sick, have disabilities, or just want simply convenience, have been really able to utilize DoorDash's services. Now, the concept of DoorDash is absolutely phenomenal, but with that, there have been some alleged issues. Now, many of us know when it comes to capitalism or just many companies that we use every single day, some of them are sneaky as hell and greedy as hell. And so I want to kick it off by talking about this 2021 lawsuit that is absolutely insane to say the least. So this first lawsuit is all about misclassifying. Now, what was really fascinating about this DoorDash case was that it actually was alleging that in California and Massachusetts, among I think a couple other states, I think there was a few more in the mix, allegedly DoorDash was not properly documenting the DoorDashers. So they were actually putting them as independent contractors and not employees, which is a really big problem apparently. This settlement was involved with so many different allegations and set lawsuits, so it kind of just like meshed into one. The plaintiffs alleged that DoorDash would rather classify them and have been classifying them as independent contractors instead of employees, which essentially allowed DoorDash to pretty much get away with not paying people employee wages or giving them any benefits, which can be a really big problem with people who are working for DoorDash. Independent contractor is a very different thing. I've actually covered independent contractors when it comes to multi-level marketing companies, for example. So if you're a part of an MLM like Monet, Arbonne, those types of companies, you are able to join in and you are considered an independent contractor. You receive a 1099. Now with that though, that can be a little bit difficult for some people because again, you don't get additional benefits that you would if you, for example, were to work a 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying? And depending on which company you work for, they're going to have you categorized in a specific way, which, you know, should be correct and legal, right? However, apparently DoorDash was trying to completely skip out on that and they were being greedy as hell and trying to get away with not paying people properly, which is a huge problem and violation. They were supposed to be receiving the same rights and protections as other employees from different companies, which the fact that they had no idea and weren't getting that, what the fuck? So if you guys do or don't know, when it comes to a DoorDasher, they're honestly the ones that cover a lot of different things. So for example, they need to cover anything that is requiring you to get started in this. So that's going to be gas, insurance, if there's any wear and tear because you're driving all the time, you know, you're delivering items to people and just many things along those lines. And so with them having to cover it along with not being paid minimum wage, that is a lot of money. Now, again, this is going to make a lot more sense too with how much this was negatively impacting drivers in the later lawsuits that I'm going to explain to you. And what also is super problematic is along with low wages and not enough benefits, they could easily be terminated very, very quickly. Things like that can happen, and that can again remove people from their sources of income, and that's ridiculous and unstable, and they should have more protections and investigation. So pretty much the drivers were going out of their way to sue DoorDash for fair compensation and being properly classified, so that way DoorDash would have to label them according to labor laws and, stop around and actually treat them with respect. This lawsuit, though, per usual, this company settled, and so it was $100 million, and $28 million was actually given to the lawyers who were working the case. And so after that, the rest of it was dispersed among other participants in the lawsuit. But again, that doesn't really make up for all the immense, insane damage that was actually done to so many participants in this lawsuit, and many more that maybe weren't even involved. Now, the really good news about this is holding DoorDash accountable, and if they're able to make proper changes and do better, and actually stop with this shit, then they're going to lose when it comes to income and they're not going to be making as much. But I mean, so what? They're an insanely huge company and people who are working for them deserve to get paid. So this next lawsuit that I'm going to talk about is actually involved with tipping. So here's the dealio, you guys. I know many of you know what I'm talking about, or if you don't, when you have an order from DoorDash, just like you would if you were to go into a restaurant and have a waiter or a waitress that is at your table, you are able to tip them. And so with DoorDashers, you tip them as well. Now, it's always good if you have the capacity, if you're able to tip people. Apparently, DoorDash was dipping into the tips and causing some problems. It was a lawsuit that was actually filed by the Washington, D.C. Attorney General for $2.5 million. Again, that's a big old fat check, but I will say that's kind of a slap on the wrist for an insanely massive company. So this actually was resolving allegations that it used tips to subsidize driver pay. Again, if you think about it, you think of tipping and you think of they're getting paid, but you're also giving them additional tips. So apparently the allegations were saying that they were using those tips to literally actually pay the base pay for drivers and not giving them base pay on top of tips. Like, that's completely fucked up. Of course, DoorDash got a heavy amount of criticism for utilizing that to pretty much fulfill your base pay, which is not all right. This was actually a really unfair labor practice, and also it was highly misleading to people who were customers of DoorDash because they actually thought that the tip was going to be extra and more and be beneficial to them, because that's what I would think. So that honestly disappoints me, because if that is what's really going on, I would love to know how much of what I've tipped to people actually truly was extra that went to them. Now, there also have been some allegations that, some of the tipping was taken, for extra profit, allegedly. I'm not too sure. That's kind of what I've been hearing. But anyways, they were just not doing what they were supposed to do. What I'm happy to say is the DC Attorney General actually stated that DoorDash had violated the city's Consumer Protection Procedure Act, which good, get them. And what's really pisses me off is this was honestly a huge benefit for DoorDash, because what it really did, they allowed them to apply those tips to the driver's regular pay, but it reduced the company's outlay of cash in hourly payments. So again, made their lives easier apparently, which why do we need a crazy mega corporation lives easier when their life is already easier? DoorDash's policies apparently directly contradicted that assumption and implication. And of course, per usual, the company wanted to settle instead of going to trial, which I find very interesting how so many of them would rather just settle, get it over with instead of go to trial. Because honestly, if you are 100% in the right, and if you did nothing wrong, go to the trial and prove them wrong. But that's just my personal belief on there. I will leave it at that. So they actually did agree to clarify their tipping policy to everyone to just make it very, very clear of how it worked. But they did in fact settle for the $2.5 million. I just don't think this is good enough. Okay, next one though. This is Chicago DoorDash lawsuit. So this is a little bit longer compared to some of the others. So the city of Chicago actually sued DoorDash for deceptive and unfair business practices. There is actually a good old list of complaints that were filed against them. So I'm just going to read this off really quickly. The suit actually alleged that DoorDash commits several violations when it comes to advertising, representation, tipping, and just misrepresenting delivery fees, which delivery fees, keep that in mind. We're going to talk about that in another upcoming lawsuit. So apparently they also claimed that there were specific delivery fees that were required by Chicago, which was later clarified that Chicago did not have those fees in the city at all. Like, that was not a requirement. You know how there's sometimes where you order something and it's like, I've actually bought some things. For example, I bought something from like Etsy, I believe, and there was like specific taxes according to where it was coming from. So there was taxes that Texas had, and it was like a little plethora of mini taxes that Texas had because I was shopping there. I don't know why, right? So honestly, that kind of makes sense because certain locations have different taxes and yada, yada, yada. Well, apparently Chicago did not have that. And they were like, what the are you doing charging that when we don't even have that to begin with? So the list actually says specifically the city alleged that DoorDash advertises order and delivery services from unaffiliated restaurants, leaving the local restaurants and restaurant owners and staff to address complaints from customers that DoorDash drivers cause. DoorDash employs a bait and switch process of getting customers to initiate a purchase by promising a smaller fee that are actually increased at the end of the transaction. I'm gonna be honest, that's happened before and it's totally pissed me off because I swear I'm like, oh, this order's not that bad. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell is this $15 fee for? What the is that? Ugh, yeah, it's not fun. It's really ridiculous, especially for people who don't have, as I like to say, around and find out money. Like, what are you doing? Next one is hide menu prices that are significantly higher than prices the restaurant charges, leading to customer service and deceptive business practices issues. And then finally, DoorDash misallocates tips to the detriment of its drivers. Wow, more tipping issues. This suit was actually filed by DoorDash customers and the city of Chicago. So a lot of people were apparently pretty pissed off about this, and which is honestly really fascinating because I didn't even find out about this lawsuit until just now. Like literally the big lawsuit was what made me look into this further. I don't really know why that wasn't more of a topic, honestly. So this is actually currently a still ongoing suit. So we don't really have a settlement or a trial or anything of that matter. The city actually was requesting that DoorDash is made to, again, adhere to existing policies, adjust deceptive policies, stop false advertising, pay a minimum of $2,000 per infraction, and for them to disgorge profits that were made by these violations. So again, we're not going to hear any results on this for a good while, so that's highly annoying. However, you guys are here for this final good one. This is the one that inspired it all, the 2023 one that actually just came out recently about how there is a $1 billion lawsuit. Now, this is wild. Again, I didn't even know it was possible to have $1 billion lawsuit for a company like this. I mean, again, the more you learn, right? I swear I learned so much by doing this for a living. Kind of has sparked conversation about this was a TikTok lawyer. So I'm actually going to put up her video right here because I thought it was a great breakdown of this just to give you a visual, and then we'll break down the other information about the lawsuit and what we know so far.
Monster $1 billion class action has been filed against DoorDash for its predatory practices, basically just alleging that DoorDash is one giant scam. Here are some of the allegations. First, the delivery windows advertised are consistently 5 to 7 minutes less than the actual delivery window, which suggests that DoorDash has an algorithm that intentionally deceives customers. Next, while vehemently claiming that they are legally not a delivery service, so that they're not actually responsible for your actual delivery, DoorDash literally charges something called a delivery fee and does not pass that fee along to the drivers, aka the deliverers, but they keep it for themselves. Also on fees, by separating out service fee from delivery fee from city fee, they are psychologically manipulating consumers into thinking that these are all separate, when they all go to the same pot, yes, including the city fee, and deep in their terms, they say, well, they don't even have to tell you what these fees are for. Now, for those of you who pay for Express, when you pay for priority to you, they don't actually tell your Dasher that you've paid extra for priority to you, and the average time of receiving an Express or standard order is allegedly the same. There are also serious allegations of how DoorDash is predatory to their drivers. So DoorDash holds their tips and pay for a week and makes the drivers pay DoorDash fees to get their pay earlier. And the same allegations of predatory behavior towards restaurants, that DoorDash holds the money you pay for restaurants for a week and makes the restaurants pay extra if they want the money before. This is allegedly a problem because DoorDash explicitly says they are not a delivery service, they are not a restaurant service, so that they don't have those liabilities, but instead they make millions in interest holding the money that you pay for delivery and for restaurants. You know I'll keep you posted on any settlement.
So she did a really good representation and example of what's going on so you guys can visually understand, like how messy and problematic this is. So they're actually alleging that DoorDash has been very selective when it comes to its delivery fees and has been going out of their way to put delivery fees on specific phones because apparently they are in higher tax brackets. According to the lawsuit as well, they're alleging that what DoorDash will do is try and trigger an order for farther away from you, which that would trigger the expanded range fee, which would try and justify to you why the delivery fees were higher. So, looks like they're being greedy again. Isn't that nice? So a representative of DoorDash has come out to say that everything is completely false and they don't do any of that. However, there's a lot of people who've been coming out and vocalizing that they've been experiencing the same allegations that the lawsuit is stating. Now, another thing that I think is insane is, how I mentioned earlier how they were focusing on like different tax brackets and putting fees on people who apparently are in different tax brackets. So the allegations are saying that some of these fees are actually put more on iPhone users than Android users because, and I quote, iPhone users, according to some studies, are usually in higher tax brackets than individuals with Androids, which honestly is really fascinating to me because I'm thinking like, okay, yes, of course, there's going to be some people who are like loaded out of their ass that have an iPhone, right? I get that. But there's a lot of people who just simply prefer the iPhone and how it works and functions, but that doesn't mean that they're in a high or exceptionally higher tax bracket for that matter. I just thought that was completely ridiculous. And that's also making me think there's people who don't have crazy amounts of money, but maybe want to splurge and get a pizza delivered, or maybe are really busy and maybe you're a busy mom and really want something delivered, or you're having a wonderful drunk night in and you can't drive, so you get something delivered and you're getting overcharged for that shit. That's ridiculous. Now, this has been tested by multiple different users and it's saying that it is around $1 difference. Apparently it was big enough for $1 billion lawsuit to be opened up against them. Now, again, anyone can sue anyone, right? And of course, honestly, I'm sure they're going to settle or find a way to get out of this, but I just think that's absolutely insane that they would want to shoot for $1 billion because this has happened to so many different people. And it makes sense. The amount of people who have ordered from DoorDash and probably have had insane extra delivery fees is wild. And especially if this has been a practice since they started, it has been happening the past 4 years, which is a long fucking time. So they wanted to say at the bare minimum $1 billion for everyone who has experienced this complete ridiculous pricing, which makes sense. But I mean, I'm sure there's some people that are still getting involved in the lawsuit. I'm sure there may be a settlement. Who knows? I have no idea about that, but it's an absolutely wild case to me. And I was like, oh my God. So apparently every time I order a pizza, DoorDash is scamming me. And it's ironic because I talk about scams. And I think it's funny to actually say, as horrible as it is, I think this goes to actually show and prove that there literally are scams everywhere, right? There's companies, corporations, and just individuals out there that are so involved with scamming you, and anyone can get scammed, right? Literally, it's so hard to avoid. It can be happening right now to you and in many different situations, and you cannot have a clue. And I think this is a big, wonderful example of a mega corporation snatching up people's money for literally no apparent reason. So that was it for today's video. If you guys are curious about more information, of course, I'll have sources linked in the description below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will see all of my angels in the next video. Bye.